You're listening to the 3 Pillars of Success, a podcast that inspires people of all walks of life to gain perspective on what it means to succeed. My name is Geraldine Convento, and I'm best known for entrepreneurship, my skills in web presence, and SEO. Thanks for listening. Enjoy the show. Hey y'all, how you doing? This is Geraldine Convento, and I'm your host for the 3 Pillars of Success podcast. Today, I'm super excited to have my special guest, Amanda Christine. Welcome.
Hey, thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. Well, as you know, we're here on the topic of success. So before we get started, we'd love to know, who are you, where are you from, and what do you do?
Well, my name is Amanda Christine, and I'm originally from southeastern Wisconsin. I'm located here in Denver. I've been here for about 7 years. And I do a few different things for jobs. I'm an artist, community activist and organizer, and a bicycle educator.
Awesome. And what do you do for fun?
Fun is super important to me, so I do a lot of different things for fun. Bicycling and dancing are probably my 2 most fun activities that really light me up. I love to create art, hang out with friends, go for walks with my dog, listen to music, that's kind of just like a constant. Cook. Those are probably the top ones, but there's a lot of fun things in the world.
Yeah, for sure. There's always new things that you can try out and do.
Absolutely.
Awesome. So we are here because we're so curious to know, what does success mean to you?
I love that question. Success looks different for me every single day. And I would say that because it just depends on where I'm at emotionally, spiritually, mentally each day. So I show up as best as I can, and some days that looks just really vibrant and out there and extrovert and I can do anything. And other days I'm hey, okay, so my energy is a bit lower today. So success for me today is going to be taking care of myself by making a good meal, making sure I'm well fed and healthy, and maybe just meditating for a bit, giving myself rest. And other days I'm oh yeah, success for me today is I'm going to get this, and this done on my to-do list. And so for success for me really does depend on just where I am, how I can show up, and just really being flexible and gentle with myself, making sure that I'm listening to myself.
If you were to choose 3 pillars that were attributed to success, what would they be?
My 3 pillars of success would be to stay in my body, to stay engaged in the world and in my inner world, and to invest in my health. So when I say stay in my body, I think it's a huge kind of habit in world culture to kind of be in the mental realm and to kind of float up into that space and not really be fully engaged in our physical selves. And there's so much wisdom in our cells, in our physical form. And I want to access that. And I find that when I do, my life runs so much more smoothly. I'm more aware of my needs. I'm more aware of the world around me, of other people, of what's happening in nature and just the day-to-day, as well as this kind of bigger perspective of life too. And when I'm kind of in this mental realm and I'm really floaty, I'm just not able to really do as much of the things that I'm really passionate about. And I'm not really able to connect into this beautiful world that we live in. And then let's see here, for staying engaged, and that really kind of goes off of staying in my body. So the more I can be embodied, the more I can engage with others, with just life in a day-to-day and big way. And I'm really engaged with my inner self. And I believe that the reason that we're here on this planet is for joy and fun. And there's a lot of stuff sometimes in between joy and fun and where we're at right now, and that's okay. But the more that we can stay engaged, the more we overcome those blocks to just living our best selves and our best lives. And investing in my health is wildly important to me, because if my health is not at a good place, I can't really be engaged. I can't do the things that I want to do. And I find that of anything that I could invest my money in, I want it to be in my mental, emotional, spiritual, and physical health. So eating really healthy, good food, going to a therapist if needed, going to cranial sacral therapy, massage, like whatever it may be, energy healing, like all of it. I'm pretty much open to like anything that's going to help me be healthier. So that is just like such a huge pillar of success for me.
Awesome. I love how you talked about pretty much anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm totally like that too. I try all different health modalities at least once.
It's so important, right?
Yeah.
You never know what's going to work best for you specifically.
Anything weird that you've tried or just out of the ordinary? And what is it?
Absolutely. There's kind of a lot of weird things, I'd say. But one thing that's kind of out there that I just love, it's this like combination of like archetypal embodiment and like Reiki and like scream therapy. I don't know.
Wow.
Yeah. And that really helps me to like drop into this like deep places within myself while simultaneously connecting into like these other energies that are greater than me and yet are a part of the fabric of our world. And that is something that I'm just like super into.
Awesome. So now that we've gone through your 3 pillars, are there any particular roadblocks that you faced in your path to success?
Yeah, for quite a few years, and of course it's still a daily thing, but I really struggled with my mental health. I was severely abused growing up and didn't really process that at all or it wasn't really safe to deal with it. When you're in a situation, it can be really hard to be like, and this is really how I feel about it. So that was kind of the nature of the circumstances. And then in my early 20s, I was at a point where I was distant enough where I could start to open it, and it just sort of was like a can of worms of like, I'm feeling everything all at once and I don't really have a structure to deal with this. I wasn't super into like energy healing at the time. I was interested, but I hadn't done it yet, maybe because I was afraid of opening this can of worms, but sure, I'm glad I did. And dealing with the aftermath of remembering everything and really feeling everything was both very challenging, but one of the biggest blessings I could have ever asked for and experienced. And it helped me connect with myself on such a deeper level, and also to view humanity with more compassion too, and understanding, and about so much love, I think, in so many different ways.
That's so important. And I'm glad that you talked about processing and how unrealistic sometimes it is for people to be able to process in the moment. I think there's a lot of lack of empathy for people who are going through stuff, because when you're going through something, sometimes you just can't see beyond the situation that you're in.
Totally. You're in survival mode, like your brain functions differently, your hormones are functioning differently because everything else is like whittled down to just this very act of surviving. And things beyond that, like going into anything in the thriving realm, is super, super difficult until you have those base needs met.
Have you ever heard of the map of consciousness?
No, I haven't.
It's by someone named Dr. Hawkins.
Oh, I think I read a book by him recently.
Oh, cool.
David Hawkins?
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Cool.
Yeah, I think I have Letting Go.
That's the one?
That's the one that you read?
Yeah.
Okay, I've heard really great things about that book. I haven't started it yet.
Love it.
And then the other one is Power versus Force.
Okay.
So that one talks more deeply about the map of consciousness. But basically, he invented or discovered this map, and all of the different emotions align from your lowest emotions to the highest, which is enlightenment. And he put a scale to them. So basically what he's saying is that when you're in the lower emotions, which is 200 or less, which is 200, I believe, is courage, and then the bottom is probably shame or guilt or something like that, is that if you're in the lower emotions, it's very difficult for you to immediately jump to happiness, which is at a higher level. So you kind of work your way through the emotions until you get to
a place that's a higher emotion.
Yep.
And for me, when I read that book, it was really insightful because I felt like, wow, so if everybody knew this information, they can gauge where they are and then work their way up or figure out what needs to happen. If you look at the map of consciousness against how people's emotions change on a daily basis, it totally matches, because grief, for example, is a lower vibration than anger is, than all the others. So I highly recommend for anyone to read Power versus Force, because it gave a lot of description and examples of how the map of consciousness works. And I think it's a great tool for figuring out and not judging yourself, just instead knowing, okay, this is where I'm at right now, and be really compassionate with yourself and just move on to other states.
Yes, I love that. And in letting go, he expands on that, and he talks about like muscle testing with these different emotions, and like how an emotion like grief or apathy, I think, was possibly the lowest, because it's like almost near death.
Yeah.
It has a super, super low like muscle testing rate. And emotions like peace and love are the two highest. And how cool is that? Like, you're literally physically stronger when you are vibrating in these emotions of love and peace. And like how that is so contradictory to like a cultural perspective in a lot of ways. Just like as a world of like, well, I shouldn't say the world, but at least in like US culture, where it's like very much like, shut that down. Love is like fluffy, when actually it's physically making us stronger.
Yeah.
I love that. That feels like if we were all to shift into that perspective, like what a different world we'd be living in.
Absolutely.
I think that would be a really fantastic way to live.
We should do something on that.
Yes, I love that.
Yes, we'll work on that together.
That's great.
All right, well, in wrapping up this episode, is there any advice you'd like to give to anyone who's on their path to success or looking to achieve that?
I would say, as best as you can on a daily basis, just authentically connect with yourself, like as deep as you can go and as compassionate as you can be, because we are all at different stages in different days, and that's totally okay. Like where you're at's fine, and it's changeable if you want to get somewhere else. But to really just be radically honest with yourself and be like, hey, okay, this is where I'm at today. This is what I'm feeling. Not to judge it, but to know that you can always find a way to get to a more successful and happy state.
I love that. Thank you.
Thanks, Geraldine.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for being on the show today. I'm sure everyone's going to get a lot of value out of what you said.
Oh, I hope so. And thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Cool. All right, y'all. Well, thank you for tuning in to this episode of the 3 Pillars of Success podcast. And we look forward to talking with you again next Wednesday. Bye.